Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we will be talking about ABAP do's and don'ts. So we're talking about what are the things which you should do and what are the things which you should not do when you're working on SAP ABAP, when you're doing the coding. So let's begin. So if you talk about database do's and don'ts, so first thing is to reduce the number of database accesses. So you should keep the number of accesses to the database at a minimum. So for example, use array operations for reading and updating multiple records. You can use joins to merge data in the database. For frequently used inner joins, you can create a data dictionary join view. You can use subqueries to mix in additional information on the database. You can use existing buffers or own data providers. And the thing which you should not do is to not cause identical database accesses with one business transaction, and also do not access the same table row on the database twice to read fields in different table columns. Next, you can optimize search with an index. So support all frequently executed database accesses with indexes. Like you can put the most selective columns at the beginning of the index. So highly selective, it is Belnar, that is document number, Matnar is material number and object ID. Not selective is bookers, that is company code, and X flag, that is binary value. You can include mandate, that is client, in every index at the first position. You can choose fields for the next positions in the index that is likely specified with equal to in the where clause of the potential statements using this table. Now the don'ts are: do not create too many indexes in highly modified tables. So the more column the index has, the more likely an update will affect one of the indexes column. And do not modify an index to support one single statement without checking side effects on other statements. Now talking about where clause must contain the first field of an index. So for index with the client field, client plus second index field. So for index with the client field, so it's client plus second index. Otherwise, expensive index full scan instead of faster binary search. So you can avoid holes in the where clause. Like this is an example. Make the where clause as specific as possible. So ideally with equal to or in condition and clauses you can do. Not equal to conditions may not be helpful for fast indexes, but can reduce the result set. Next is to reduce the transfer data volume. So keep the amount of data transferred at minimum. So you can read only required table rows, like using full-fledged where clauses to filter data. Use option up to n rows to restrict the number of lines. Use aggregate functions like count, sum and max. Use update and set statement. Use field lists instead of select if this reduces the transfer data volume. Things to avoid are avoiding the use of check statements inside select and unselect, and also be careful about malicious existence check. So let's look at some classical database performance guidelines. Here things to remember is keep the results set small. You have to minimize amount of transfer data. You need to minimize the number of statements. You have to minimize search overhead. Keep load away from the database. So talking about the first one, you can make the where clause as specific as possible. Don't retrieve rows and discard them on the application server using check or exit. For minimizing the amount of transferred data, you can use select and use aggregate functions. For minimizing the number of statements, you can use join instead of nested select loops. Use select for all entries instead of lot of selects. Use array variants of insert, update, modify and delete. Now to minimize the search overhead, you define and use appropriate secondary indexes. And to keep load away from database, you can avoid reading data redundantly. Use table buffering and sort data in your ABAP programs. So in the next video, we will be talking about more do's and don'ts. So like, share and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Thank you and goodbye.